represent academia. Where was it started? It started with questioning religious authority called church. And what was that first question? Whether the earth is flat or spherical. Till 1922, what started in 16th century, with Copernicus and Galileo and Bruno, they were asking one simple question, whether the earth is flat or spherical. And they were giving an answer that earth is spherical and earth is revolving around itself and sun, and that's why we have this cycle of seasons, and that's why we have day and night, and that's why we have a year-long calendar. What was the reaction of the European community and the European authority to it? Bruno was burned alive. Copernicus was house arrested. Galileo, research was confiscated, and only in 1992, Pope expressed his grief and pardoned Galileo in 1992. What was the question? Whether the earth is flat or spherical. That was the first scientific question of the Western world, which the methodology had to be followed. So asking question to religion is science. Science and religion cannot go together. That is the fundamental philosophy. Galileo made a bigger crime. I will come to it later. But look at us. We come from different parts of India, and we have studied the subject called worldview. But what do we call the subject called worldview in our own languages? For more than
Our common people knew that Bhu is goal and Kha is also goal. The earth is spherical and the universe is spherical. We gave exact distances of the planetary positions. And that's why this is the integral approach. Seeing the things holistically and then finding the context. But there was more fundamental problem to the European society. It was not just about earth and sun. Who created this existence? Again, there was a biblical dictum. Again, there was an authority to impose it. Again, I'm not talking about a way of worship. I'm talking about the process of evolution of the so-called modern knowledge system. The first question of modernity, what they call as modern, scientific, was resolved for our entire knowledge system long ago. So the second question was, who created this existence? And again, the problem was, they were trying to find answer only in the book. And Galileo tried to question that. The person who tried to find answer to it was Darwin, which is again a founding, and we conveniently accepted somebody as father, somebody as mother to nahi hai wahan pe, lekin fathers. Because till 1998, there was no soul in woman. Only when Mother Teresa was to be given sainthood. So that's why when Rousseau says, man is born free. Not human is born free. So the Darwinian principle of evolution is based on natural law of selection, which became, so from geography to physics to biology, we started fragmenting the knowledge system. One question came to the religious authority, one discipline emerged. Darwin said, no, it is not the creation of God, it is the nature that has evolved, and who is the most advanced creature on this earth? Human being. Why? Because he has survived, and I'm deliberately being gender insensitive when I'm saying he. Don't say, organizer, editor said so, because they believed he. Because the next stage was feminism. Feminism also came as a reaction not to the male authority, but to the authority of the church. Political rights came much later. So natural law of selection became the foundation. Then came his pet student called Herbert. He brought it to social sciences from biology. In the biological terms, it is survival of the fittest. So who is fit to survive has survived, and that's why he has a right to live. Nobody has a right to interfere. Rationality, human rationality became the biggest trait of existence, biggest strength. So, the entire approach to knowledge is anthropocentric, human-centric, rather man-centric. Then the question was, if religion has not created this, God has not created this, if this is a natural law of selection, if this is a survival of the fittest, then there would be a conflict. Who will manage that conflict? Then came the social contractualist, Hobbes, Locke, and Rousseau. They came with the idea of contract. Why I'm saying this? Because the renewal of contract became democracy for them. When we insist that we are mother of democracy, what is the difference between Indian principles of democracy and Western principles of democracy that we never investigate in political science? In Indian principle, the opinion used to be evolved from bottom-up approach. While there, the contract is renewed after 5 years. Constitutionalism of Montesquieu came because of that. I'll not go into details of it, but Adam Smith and Ricardo and Malthus also came due to that. If this interference is not required, then market will decide the thing. That's why they came with the wealth of nations and entire invisible hand of market. So economics came as a discipline. So entire disciplinary evolution of knowledge tradition in West is disintegrationist. So an economist say, I understand demand and supply, I don't understand polity, I don't understand culture, I don't understand values. That is a domain of somebody else. Political scientists say, oh, I understand politics, I understand constitution, I understand governance. I don't have anything to do with the core trade and economy related theories. Both says I don't have to do anything with society, sociology, people will see it. And all of them come together and distort the history. Science is completely segregated from society, and that's why what we are seeing today as the crisis of AI is a classic example again, where technology which was supposed to make the human life comfortable has made us more uncomfortable. So this led to the evolution of idea of three core principles of Western modern thinking. One is individualism, other is scientificism, and third is secularism. On the principles of individualism, though secularism and scientificism remain constant, there was a crisis by the 19th century in European society, and as a counter to it came the new theory, in a way which it was an old theory of communism, but it came as a scientific idea of socialism in the form of Marxism. Marxism essentially did not defy the fundamental thought process of Protestantism. What we study today is basically Protestantism. That's why we use this as a pastor, and you call yourself professor because you profess certain values based on certain religion. That's why you are professor. All these terminologies also have come from that. Entire Oxbridge tradition has evolved as a Protestant tradition because British was a reformist church. Marxism as a critique of liberalism essentially differ only in one principle which Deen Dayal ji has dissected beautifully. He said liberalism and communism are two, or capitalism and communism are two sides of the same coin, simply, and they differ only in one aspect: who would control the property, wealth, whether it is the collective ownership or the individual ownership, whether it is the state-owned industrialization or individual control industrialization. That is the only difference. Otherwise, all values remain the same. Religion has to be questioned if you want to be scientific. Individualism is the ultimate value. Scientific temper means following Western method of analyzing things. And because of this linear approach, though both these ideologies look different, they essentially follow the same trajectory. Dattopant Thengdi, one of the greatest proponent and who built up on Deen Dayal ji's Ekatma Manav Darshan, analyzed this beautifully in 1990s. When he said, somebody wants market globalization, somebody wants communist globalization, essentially they want others to be like them, so they impose something. Ours is only tradition which believes in familial globalization. Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam literally means familial globalization. Like in family, every individual is different, and still you are part of a family. Every individual has a right to grow as per the temperament, and still you remain part of the collective whole. Similarly, as a world, every nation has a different kind of role and temperament. If you recognize that, then there is a possibility of coexistence. That temperament, that essential Atman of a Rashtra is called as Chitti, Chitta. In Vaidika Richa also, we say Samanam Mantra Samiti Samani. Samanam Mana. Till then everything is Samana. Later we say Sahachitta Mesham. Chitta cannot be Sama. Every individual is unique. As unique as Aadhaar card. Because your retina is different, your fingerprints are different. That's why you are a unique entity that is registered as a through your Aadhaar card. And every individual existing on this earth is unique. And the sanskara on that soul coming together becomes your chitta. That is unique. When that, as per the chitta, you express yourself with full potential, you actually lead towards moksha. But a rashtra performing as per that chitta becomes virata. That's why this exhibition is very important. What is the Atman of Bharat and what is the Chitta of Bharat and what is the Virat of Bharat? Unfortunately, what happened in 1648, all of you study First World War, all of you study Second World War, which was the biggest and bloodiest war on this earth. Mahabharata? No, in their modern sense. We don't study. It is called as the 30 Years' War. From 1618 to 1648, there was a consistent war in Europe between the Catholics and the Protestants. It is called as the 30 Years' War. What was the outcome? The outcome was Treaty of Westphalia in 1648, which we study in international politics or in other all disciplines. It gave the modern map of Europe. It gave the idea of boundary. It gave the idea of sovereignty. It gave the idea of modern international law. What was the basis of that particular treaty? Every nation has to be a state. Only if it is state based on religious, ethnic or linguistic identity, then you have a right to exist with your borders. Till now, 1648, till today, they still are not able to settle their borders. And wherever they have went to colonize the people, they have created border disputes. You take any territory in the world, whether you take Bharat, Pakistan, whether you take Southeast Asia, whether you take Africa, everywhere they created borders. Because their lens of seeing things was again disintegrationist. Why I am saying after Gandhi? Because Gandhi and Hind Swaraj provide the same critique of Western civilization. But that time obviously communism was not as popular a terminology as it was in 1950s and 60s. So Dindayalji was in a better position to provide a critique to both the ideologies and give an Indian alternative. Bharat has seen the knowledge tradition in a more integrationist way. I always call it, the allopathic and the Ayurvedic approach of knowledge tradition. In allopathy, you treat the problem. While treating the problem, a heart specialist will treat your heart. Of course, he will check your basic parameters, but while giving the medicine, he will not bother what is happening to your other body parts. Then suddenly your heart is stabilized, but suddenly there is some dysfunctioning in the kidney. So then another specialist will come. He will look after kidney. Then your liver will dysfunction. Ultimately it will go to brain. Then they will call general medicine. And he will tell you that the body is in coma. So you start with heart, but your problem starts shifting. Because you are not treating the body, you are treating just the problem. Ayurveda is exactly reverse. They will do Nadi Pariksha. They will scan your body. They will treat your body. The problem will be resolved. So every person as per the Prakriti will have a different kind of medicine. Ayurveda doesn't have one-size-fit-all approach. Of course, in certain things we can have common medicines, but otherwise, Ayurveda is not supposed to be what we are trying to do today. In Ayurvedic practice, as well as in our knowledge tradition in the name of Indian knowledge system. What we are trying to do? Oh, we have political science syllabus, we have Kautilya and Bhishma for 2 credits. Nonsense. Simply because what we are trying to do, we are trying to fit some of our names or some of our knowledge or information into the Western framework. These are 2 different frameworks. I am not saying good or bad. What I am saying right now is both have their advantages and disadvantages. We should be able to give option to the students to apply both the methods. Dindayalji is coming up with that alternative approach or the non-Western approach of development. So he fundamentally gave Chiti and Virat. At the same time, he talks about the idea of dharma. Then he speaks about Rashtra. He speaks about the dharma, artha, kama, moksha. The slogan that is used for this conference, Sukhasya Moolam Dharma. Dharma is the foundational, it is the balancing force. We don't see things in binaries, this or that, good or bad. Asura is never a negative term for us. We don't see a conflict between man and woman. We don't see a conflict in human and nature. We don't see conflict between individual and collective. We don't see conflict between science and religion. And that's why Swami Vivekananda says, in Bharat, when you lead to ultimate level of scientificism, you lead to spirituality. So there is no conflict. There the fundamental idea of science is anti-religion. Fundamental idea of being feminist is anti-man. Fundamental idea of being economist is anti-environment. And fundamental idea of being environmental is anti-development. So every crisis that we see today is originating from this disintegrationist point of view. That time, in the global context of Cold War, Dindayalji is giving this integral humanist framework. That's why it was important. In 90s, due to globalization, Dindayalji, Dattoban Thengdi built up through his famous book called Third Way. And there he gave this idea of familial globalization, where he says, what is Bharat's worldview? What is Bharat's idea of globalization? He wrote a wonderful piece in Organizer itself. He says, we are not against globalization, we are against market globalization, because we believe in familial globalization. What is familial globalization? Like in a family, as I said, every individual is different, still part of one whole. But how does an idea of family works? You know, when we say Kula Geet, you know, every university, most of the universities have a Kula Geet now. And we say university as a family, industrial house as a family, grama as a family, Kula as a family. You know, we have a unique concept. Again, we come from different parts of India, different languages, but only in India, Chanda can be Mama and Billy can be Mausi. You tell me anywhere in the world where a moon can be your uncle, maternal uncle, and cat can be your maternal auntie. Even with this entire existence, we have developed any new person meeting, unknown person meeting in public places. We call Bhaiya, we call Cheta, we call Anna, we call Akka. We establish certain familial bonds. That is Bharatiya view. Now, when this individual, after birth, expand the consciousness, it becomes his or her own family. When that family expands the consciousness, it becomes Kula. When that Kula expands the consciousness, it becomes Grama. When Grama expands the consciousness, it becomes Rashtra. And when Rashtra expands the consciousness, it becomes Vasudha. That's why Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. Expansion of your family values up to global level, that consciousness that yes, you are America. If 4 Americans will come together, they will form a company. That is your Chiti. Americans, French people coming together will discuss aesthetics, perfume, art. That is your Chiti. Britishers will come together, think about power and political party. 4 of the Indians come together, they will do Shastrartha and ultimately will come to the conclusion, okay, both of us can be right. They will reach to spirituality, religion, whether they like it or not. Even an atheist person, you know, the contemporary of Din Dayal ji was Ram Manohar Lohia. He was a hardcore socialist and declared atheist. But he wrote a wonderful piece. Every academician must read to understand Bharat. Rama, Krishna and Shiva. He says, as a socialist, I don't believe in God. But after traveling India, I believe that if you don't understand Rama, Krishna and Shiva, you can't understand Bharat. He says, Ram connected Bharat from north to south, Krishna connected from east to west, and Shiva exists as its consciousness. A socialist, atheist person saying this about Bharat. He's a very good friend of Din Dayal ji, and there is a beautiful conversation between them on the, contemporary political developments. Post-partition, they establish the dialogue, and there is a wonderful letter of exchange that we must research. But again, the point that I'm making is, when the Cold War started, there needed a different point of view. When globalization came, there needed a different point of view, and we came with the idea of Swadeshi and familial globalization. Now, we are entering into a completely new phase where integral humanism or Ekatma Manav Darshan is all the more relevant. Because there are multiple levels of disruptions that are happening. One, the idea of world order is collapsing. The people who actually spoke about the post-Cold War world order, whether in terms of end of ideology, whether in terms of technological disruption, whether in terms of rise and fall of great powers by Paul Kennedy, whether in terms of clash of civilizations by Samuel Huntington, all of them are finding it difficult to explain the present day world. Because the idea of world order, which became popular after the Second World War, that itself is collapsing. Unorder is only order. United Nations system that America created for its own power's sake, America itself is out of 66 organizations of the United Nations system. WTO is collapsing, so the trade cannot be governed. Organization is already out of, and most of the major powers now are coming out of environmental program of United Nations. The Paris Agreement is also collapsing. The wars have become norm, and we have stopped talking about even the moral, ethical, and human issues of war. We are just talking about the interests. We don't know how many body bags are actually going to America. We don't know what is actually happening in Ukraine. It is just information warfare. The actual war is something else. The objectives are also different, but what we have told is entirely different. I'm not again going into detail because that is my area of interest and specialization, so it can derail. But the present world is facing the energy crisis, the stability crisis, the technological crisis, the systemic crisis, the economic crisis, the environmental crisis, and most importantly, the crisis of credibility. And all of these are thanks to the Western way of looking at the things. So everybody agrees that the present idea and framework of worldview is not sufficient. Everybody is saying sustainability. Arey Baba, we have been saying this. Dharma is that sustenance. If you go to any extreme, it will create a problem. Unless you have artha and kama controlled by dharma and moksha, you cannot have sustainability. Only problem is whether Marx or Mill, they see the relationship vertically, we see it horizontally. We set the limit of dharma and moksha for artha and kama. We are not against prosperity. We are against exploitation and extortion. And that's why Deen Dayal ji uses the word dohan, not shoshan. So, because where is the fundamental flaw and why we need to rework on it? Because the fundamental question of Western knowledge system is how to overcome the nature. How to win over nature. Once Deen Dayal ji was asked, you always speak about the East and the West. What is so different about it? Deen Dayal ji gave very interesting answer. Deen Dayal ji said, see, in the Western world, their idea of existence is linear. So, they see the world as linear movement. It has happened in Europe, it must have happened in India also. We have gone to other places and in the indigenous people there, Aryans also must have done this in India. So they impose their experiences on others. If you are following us, if you are wearing, 3-piece pantsuit, then you are sabhya, cultured. Otherwise you are barbaric. We will decide what is good and what is bad. And that's why what we see with the present day reports. In happiness index, Afghanistan and Pakistan is above India. In hunger index, Afghanistan and Sri Lanka is above India. Means we are supplying food to them. So this contradiction comes simply because the methodology is problematic. And that's why your own students also find what you teach in classes irrelevant for their practical life. So if we really want to be responsive to the global challenges, and Bharat has to, there is no option now. And academia, intelligentsia, and the intellectual leadership of the society has a role to play. So, Dindayalji gave, that answer, that the linearity, because there is a birth, there is a life, and there is a death. After that, there is a doomsday or Qayamat ki Raat. For us, after death also there is a birth. And it is irrespective of religion in India. Irrespective of religion and sect in India, everybody in lifetime says, is janam mein to nahi hoga. So we believe in next birth. Our idea of existence is circular. Kali Yuga hai, everybody says, oh, this is Kali Yuga. But everybody has a belief that there will be Satya Yuga. So our idea of, now because of this, Dindayalji says, our idea is not to extract and exploit everything for this birth. Conserve something for future. So we are naturally environment friendly. America is 4% of global population, consumes 34% of energy. We are 16% of global population, we consume 4% of energy. Why? You just see the way we, what our kettles do to our life. We don't understand. People only think only in terms of go raksha and go hatya and political side of it. No. It has to do with complete sustainability cycle. Because Dindayalji says their idea was to overcome the nature, to win over nature. Bharat's idea was to live with nature, to be part of nature, to decode the nature and adjust life according to it. That is integral humanism. Not to overcome, not to overpower. Today, world needs this. And we have shown a couple of examples recently. I'll just quote them and then I'll stop. 2014, the idea was floated. Within 6 months, one proposal by Government of India, seconded by 177 countries, and then unanimously adopted by United Nations. That was International Day for Yoga. In last 80 years of existence in United Nations, nothing of this sort has happened, where one country has proposed some idea. 177 countries, including 44 Muslim countries, seconded that proposal, and the proposal was unanimously accepted, and 192 countries on 21st June 2015 celebrated Yoga Day in some form or the other. They were not just doing yoga, they were not just doing Surya Namaskara, they were indirectly saying, we are looking at Bharat Mata for solutions. Holistic healthcare became a buzzword in the entire West after that. The second proposal came a couple of years later, when India proposed one idea. France seconded, and when France asked United States asked, what is India's stand? And when France said, India has proposed this, United States immediately didn't come on board, but said, then why are you asking me? 135 countries became a member of International Solar Alliance. First time a grid was created. Gurugram became the headquarter till 2054. Bharat became a hub of solar grid, international solar grid. We have overcome all the the numbers that we had committed under renewable energy, all countries are finding it difficult to meet 2030 targets. We have already crossed our commitments. Why? Because there is a conviction. There are minor changes, but I think, in terms of numbers, in terms of statistics, in terms of social science, we need to study them. Small things. What happens when instead of individual, a family become a beneficiary? Whether a household, whether a tap, whether a Ujjwala Yojana, it's not the individual who is a beneficiary, though name is one, preferably woman, but the beneficiary is family. Family is the unit. Entire game change, the delivery process change. I'm not saying it is perfect, I'm saying the change of approach. We need to study Bharat from integrationist point of view rather than disintegrationist point of view. Otherwise, our social sciences, our worldview will never be Indian. Instead, we will be looking at India from the Western prism. Now, what we need to do is to look at the world from Indian prism and teach the world to look at themselves with Indian idea of familial values. Ekatma Manav Darshan conference is supposed to percolate those fundamental principles and ideas in each and every discipline, come together, coming from different disciplines and still think integrally, not just interdisciplinary. Interdisciplinary is allopathy. Ayurveda is integral. So think integrally. Your core discipline will remain there. It will not go away. But you will start seeing at things differently. Then only Bharat will be able to, as Swami Vivekananda said, has a role to play, has a destiny, has a mission to accomplish. And that mission to accomplish is basically to give. We calling ourselves Vishwaguru doesn't make much sense, as America calling itself superpower now. Others has to recognize that we are Vishwaguru. And that will happen only when we act as per our chitti and not as per the thought process of others. So may our chitta rekindle our integral values, and may our Virat expresses itself with Bharatiya worldview. That is the idea of Ekatma Manav Darshan. I just hope that this conference paved the way for the same in academia, and soon we will be not just Vikasit in the Western term, but truly progressed, evolved, spiritually, ethically, and economically a guiding force to the world in coming decades. I hope this conference paved the way for the same. Thank you very much for patience.
Once again, sir. Sir, once again. The years of experience, research in the field of education, all the thoughts were put into the name of Ekatma Manav Darshana by the Panditji. The every minute concept were covered by Prafulji within very less period of time. Ananta Dhanyavadam ji, your insights into the philosophy was deeply thought-provoking, masterfully managed the bridge between the philosophy and the practical application in the today's world. Ananta Dhanyavadam once again for the enriching the knowledge of innovative minds present here. I thank once again Prafulji for this wonderful session. I apologize, I forgot to introduce another our guest on the dais, Dr. Niranjan Pujar. He is convener of Prajna Pravaha Karnataka Uttara, as well as the convener of this International Academic Conference. He is assistant professor in the Central University Kalburgi. I request Dr. Niranjan Pujar to give the token of respect for the speaker, Shri Praful Ketkarji. Dhanyavad. I just would like to give 2-3 instructions. Tomorrow morning, your breakfast will be ready by sharp 8 o'clock. Please don't be too late for the breakfast. 8 o'clock your breakfast will be served. By 9:15 you have a special session of Yakshagana, and by 10 o'clock the Padma Bhushana Shatavdani Ganesh Ji's session will be by sharp 10 o'clock. Now your dinner is ready, you can disperse. Dhanyavadalu.